Right. Hi, guys.
Hi, Phil.
Hi. Okay, Mohit, we're going to do 5 minutes of this, and then we're going to go into your presentation and onto the normal scheduled day. So
Okay.
I know you've seen Mark, but the reason I'm being all let me show Mark is one of my closest friends, and we have almost nothing in common except for an interest in hypertext, which is where a lot of our very interesting discussions come from. Would you agree, Mark? And I speak and he mimes, so that's a difference. And
Sorry, I just said yes, absolutely.
yeah, right. So here's the thing, um, and this is important and relevant. I've been texting Mark today to come, and he is overloaded with ACM work right now. And he sent a message saying it's like I have a religious fervor, and I kind of shot back. But it's true, I do. So I'm going to show you guys because the rest of you have already seen the both of you. You've both already seen the atlas and things, right? So you know this is production, proper code. Eric is running it. So now I'm going to show you how I do it very specifically. So the window on the left with the green stuff is for people who is not me. I'm not that kind of a person, right? Mark went through the PhD program with me. He's much more technically acute than I am, even though he doesn't do programming these days, though he has done. So today I was lucky enough to have an hour with our former professor and now friend and collaborator, Dave Millard. So I'm going to read the prompt that I wrote into this program here. So this is the liquid view that Eric has running. And this is how, while I was sitting, I had 15 minutes. I was early for the meeting. So I wrote to Claude and Mark, just to really simplify, clarify, this central column is the entire interaction I have with Claude. You can see it with the blue bit on top, right?
Yeah, sure.
Everything else, for our intents and purposes, is irrelevant. So I wrote, I'm about to have a meeting with my former professor, Dave Millard, who is a leading figure in the field of hypertext. Please research all you can about him and his work and tell me if you think of a relevant view to add to Origami Text for macOS to enable something he's been working on or writing about. If I agree with you, and please suggest more than one view if you want to, we'll build it to show him. So already, this ain't coding. I told it to go do research, and it did. Right, so he says, you know, this is who he is, and then he suggests these things, and he says, this is based on, I'll skip down here, this is based on something he wrote 8 weeks ago.
Oh.
I mean, holy moly, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I said, okay, fine. I mean, it's saying lots of other cool stuff. And I said, yeah, implement this thing. So, okay, fine, I'll do that. So I'm just going to add this up. So down here, the way this is structured, and it's going to change because it's been overloaded because this is me in a candy shop. We have dialogue, outgoing message, income, all of that stuff. But down here, we have a category of views. And this, Mark, is where I think the hypertext ideas really come into it, and which is why Eric has created a zzstructure interaction for it. So this is what Dave Millard wrote 8 weeks ago, and Claude implemented with one prompt. It takes a while because it's locally going through all the documents. Oh, I haven't pressed the button yet. There we go.
So this is encapsulating essentially what the AI does if you use it in any other prompt and ask it to basically give an argumentation structure of.
I'm
so
not
again,
sure.
this is not to be. I'm just trying to understand what's genuinely new as opposed to what's reboxing of stuff. The latter is not the latter is not without worth at all. But it's important to understand sort of where the, you know, I'm just trying to get my head around what's actually genuinely new as opposed to unexpected.
Right. So what is genuinely new for me is that when I'm in here, because it is exactly like I'm sitting next to a world-class programmer who's read, as you said last week, all the manuals, and who it doesn't get bored with refactoring and things like that. That's what's new. because I gave
Okay.
it, and remember, Tom, we're doing stuff you already know. We started a bit early because Mark has a lot on his plate today. So the thing is, when it went out and made the stuff, the result doesn't necessarily need to have any AI in it. So I'm not making an AI thing. Now,
Yeah.
okay, so this happened to be exactly what Dave wrote about. I showed it to him over lunch and said, yeah, that's right. And I did two more. Here is a trails thing, which is very, in our field, and also geometries. This is exactly the workspace that he talked about. I could
Yeah, and I mean, this is interesting. I mean, this is because very similar to something I saw back in about when was it, about January, February. Someone did a similar. Basically, they'd use the Tinderbox MCP to do something similar. So it's interesting in the context, so you put it in the wider context. So the exciting part is, yes, that anyone can do it in Xcode. What's interesting is you don't actually have to use Xcode. It's just a convenient way to do it.
No, it's different, Mark. I have to pause you on that because my friends who are technically adept, who live and do coding in a browser with Cloud Code or whatever, they do really powerful stuff, but they are programmers.
No, these weren't programmers, so that's why I'm saying just trust me that in something you haven't seen that. So again, don't misread this. I'm just trying to contextualize here. So this is interesting because it's actually confirmation of something I've already seen elsewhere. That doesn't in any way sort of devalue it. The interesting thing is and it's something a conversation I'm involved in other contexts is this thing of being able to move quickly from having some information to exploration of it. And this is another instance of reducing the friction of that. We still have the challenge of whether we understand what we see, which is also ongoing.
Mark, it isn't that. What I'm presenting here is not my piece of software, which I'm very proud of. What I am presenting is the process of how now revolutionarily simple it is. I have gotten several App Store apps out of this. Speaking Assistant, the Enter Atlas, this origami text. This origami text can export and import to EPUB origami text style. I've gone through several ways of doing it. So the program I would love to discuss with you at some point, all of you, because I have to change it a lot. But the fact, I mean, I could literally now say, okay, do any of you have an idea for where you would like to see this kind of letter and things view? I could write it in. And because this is aggressively open source, there's two things that are really important. One, if you click on this and open this document, which is just a markdown document, what I'm structuring, it almost works, is that you could go to any AI you want, give it this document and say, I would like a view that does this stuff. According to this document, it'll spit it out in a format that can then easily be put into this piece of software. Right, so it is layers of super easy prompting.
So the thing is, once it's built, so you have the interaction whilst it's being built, but you don't necessarily have the reaction beyond. So one of the interesting things about this is what I've been watching, and I'm sorry, it's a conversation that's been going elsewhere, but already using this sort of thing, and then thinking about it's the resectioning, because often we can imagine things, and we can imagine something that looks interesting and it's exciting and interesting, but it turns out to be less informative than we imagine, simply because what it tends to do is reveal another layering to the information, the knowledge we're trying to explore.
That still isn't it. In terms of, you're right. I'm not arguing against you, but what I'm really quote unquote selling here is the fact that if you, because this source code is available, you can open up this and say, I want the view that is like Tinderbox in this way, and you just describe it in normal prose, and it will build.
Yeah, we know this, but we know this works. So that's not new. Okay. As I say, that's entirely possible, and that doesn't in any way take away from this. But it's probably less new than you imagine it to be.
I have spent £250,000 to build Author. over the years. I've spent £1,000 on this over the last week. I've gotten better results.
Yeah.
This scale,
That's fine.
No, but hang on, in terms of cost of production, this is at least 100 times cheaper. And it is instant. So as a designer, if I think one of the last things that came up was the file format naming wasn't right. Not only will it change it, it'll refactor everything that needs to be done to change it. Hi, Brandel. We're going over to Mohit in a second. I'm very glad you're back. I just want to say you're at the tail end of a discussion that I know is a bit out of your wheelhouse, but it is Claude inside Xcode. Because I'm just making the point that I've now done several apps, including textual apps like this, to experiment with views of the information we have purely by writing prompts. And I do think that is like having a world-class, couldn't be tired programmer sitting next to you all day, all night. And maybe one of the most important things, refactoring, it doesn't mind doing. So the code is always as clean as it could be. And I think it changes what information is, because it means that the cost of making a piece of software that interacts with your letters, your emails, your hypertext, whatever, is lower than a normal off-the-shelf piece of software. It's almost like pen and paper. Anyway, how was China?
Good. I went to lots of it. I got within 80 miles of the border with North Korea and Russia. So it was 80 miles from Vladivostok, and then up to just by Inner Mongolia over and the Tibetan plateau in the Hashi corridor. Yeah, it was a really, really interesting way to get around and see the country and see where everything is.
That is super cool. That's amazing. I hope you took a few photographs that you will share later.
I did. I took many photographs.
Good. So we're going to go over to Mohit in a minute, but Mark, I think I've done the pitch. I think you get it. Whether it's useful for you or not is entirely something else.
No, I think it's really interesting. I think I'll try and make a quick observation, because it's really a shame I'm going to drop off. My apologies, Mohit. I mean, I just ran with stuff. Is that okay? I think something that I would say at this point is, well, an interesting observation that came to me somewhat unexpectedly is that the cool bit is we can make all these visualizations. The experience of watching people do this quite recently is that it merely shows that you move the thing forward a bit. So it's great that an app can make this. What you actually want is then the next stage is the app that lets you ask the secondary question. So it shows you view X or view Y, but you realize that actually doesn't show you something you want. Now, the interesting thing is if you're just using somebody else's data or database, you're stuffed because you can only use what's there. The interesting thing that is happening, I've seen doing where people actually have the information themselves, is to then be able to basically resection the information, do the abstraction necessary to give you the building blocks to make the thing that you now understand you want. And those people are doing it via MCP, but I think it's terribly easy to get overblown about which AI and what thing. The AI is very capable. It's really good. It's big. It's one big thing, and I'll leave this point for you to consider. The one thing that it's really quite articulate about its inability to do is to hold multiple contexts at once, which seems still a human skill we haven't yet managed, and that's really interesting for when you're doing sort of work with textual knowledge and you're trying to actually take structure from it.
This is not about the AI. It truly isn't. This is about having an entity that can build you a non-AI app. Like the globe just
but it is the AI is building the app. That's the only AI in it.
But the thing is, so far, having built several apps, robust code, it works. The data formats are solid, right?
Yeah, so I'm not saying no. I agree. I'm not saying it doesn't.
It is. My point is just that the limitations of what an AI can do and stuff is interesting and something to discuss. But the centrality of it is, if you now, Mark, download Xcode, open it up, and just allow Claude to be there, you can type in, I'm a fan of Ted Nelson, build me something cool that he would like. It will effing do that. mind-blowing. Will it do it the right way? Of course not. Then you iterate like you would do with a team of human programmers. Say,
Yeah,
should
but you
be
also,
say
the
that it
thing,
should
very important, you just iterate. Well, the reality is, of course, you can iterate an awful lot.
Yeah.
Different people have different experiences. I'm just being practical about that. So one of the really interesting things you find people writing about this is the time shift. So the time you used to spend something else, you now spend bot herding, I think is the term.
No,
Anyway,
Mark,
so
Mark,
you're
no,
basically
no,
having to
Mark,
do
Mark,
this
no,
resectioning.
no. I'm sorry. No.
Yes,
No,
absolutely.
I have
And there are
done
people
this.
who
No,
have the expertise to know that and writing about it,
no, Mark,
ipso facto.
I have built these things. They work.
Yes, I understand that for
So
a
this
lot. You
is
see,
not,
I'm trying
it's
to say
not
that I'm
bug
not saying you
hunting or
haven't
bot
built them.
hunting or any of that. It actually works. Try it someday. Anyway, it's fair enough that you have a concern about the AI, but the thing is, I want this and I get it. That's the
I don't.
reality.
No.
It's mind-blowing.
Because I finished. Because Mohit needs to speak. I'll just say that. Yeah, I get it. It's less new than I thought it was. It's great that one can do it. I'm not convinced it's quite as revolutionary as perhaps proposed, but it's useful if it gets people to where they need to go.
Yeah. Right. I have absolutely no idea what's going on there. Right. We will get back to this after your presentation, Mohit. I'm going to go briefly through the app. So then most of the time after that will be Eric going through his experiments with ZZ space structures. Brandel, I don't know if you can hear me, but currently today, Mohit's going to be talking about what he's building. Then Eric and I will talk about a Mac native app. And I know you're not a Mac native guy, but the structures within that should definitely be both XR and open source, WebXR and so on. So it is going from A to B. Mohit, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll start with sharing my screen. Entire desktop. Okay. Is screen okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for this. It's amazing to have an audience like you guys, and I'm looking forward to your comments and ideas on this. This is something that I've been working on, thinking, and trying to give it a form that other people are able to understand, and so that we can make something out of this. So transforming the medium of interaction into a medium of cognition. So this the project this project is about building a new category of information tools, interfaces that can augment how we connect things. We already have tools for searching, recommending, and answering, but I think there is still an unaddressed category, which we can refer to as navigational systems. I'll open up about why I'm calling this navigational systems later. A system of tools that, during one's encounter with things in the world, can bring one's past resources in live contact with the things one is interacting with at present, so that the connecting work that normally happens only in our head can take place on the screen during our act of navigating through the world. So that's why I'm calling this transforming the medium of interaction into a medium of cognition. Starting off, we focus on. I think I don't need to tell a whole lot where everyone is I think much aware about this. So every day we are interacting with a lot of things and the processes. So this is the distribution. I'm using the theories of distributed cognition to ground this the whole project, that the cognitive activities, they are not just in our brains inside, but rather spread out through the mediums, through our activities in the world. Yeah. So, in my work, I try to move beyond this idea of independent things coexisting. So, we currently are understanding that, everything is connected, things depend on each other. But this interdependence is sort of still, even in this conception, we generally do consider things uh, to be existing as inert. But in relationship with other things. In my project, I'm considering them to be ontologically connected with each other. So there is no independent existence possible. So neither do things exist inertly, and the ontological independent of other things, nor does, sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. Different conceptions. Yeah, so a different conception of cognition, of understanding the world, can in turn generate new imaginaries about the pursuit of augmenting human cognition. It is through the Cartesian conception of cognition as an innate process existing entirely inside human brain that we arrive at ambitions of creating a digital oracle so powerful as to solve all our problems ranging from the existential to the mundane. Tom often tells how he's having a hard time making his students understand that there are more capabilities with these LLM models than just asking them for answers. And he, as he shares, he has discovered through the chat logs how the students are treating it as oracle. So, part of I think, it's not just the marketing thing, but it is also that how we have understood cognition traditionally, even though scientifically our conceptions have changed. But the Cartesian model of cognition still prevails. And in building these tools, the imaginations of a lot of the builders, it is around building systems that can predict your next moves, that can predict correct answers, that can tell you what to do, that sort of thing. And so this is. So, throughout history, we have had different sort of mediums. I spoke about this the last time I was presenting, so I won't go over this much.
Yeah, I really want to know more about what you're building, so I look forward to that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, just a minute. So, meaning doesn't emerge from a thing in isolation. And it arises from the interplay between what one is currently encountering and what one has already interacted with. Past readings, things one may have saved, half remembered references, etc. So one's understanding depends on which one of one's prior encounters one is able to assemble during one's present interactions. This assembling is mostly biological and done manually. Therefore, the limitations of our working and core memories also limit our understandings and decisions. The kind of access and interactivity that a medium affords between these known and unknown elements shapes the meaning that arises through our interactions. So, we have currently, we have tools that I'm not able to do this now. And yeah, so yeah, the context. Yes. So there are access limitations. So we have two limitations. One is the kind of things that we are able to retrieve, and the kind of entanglements that we are able to engage between the retrieve things. So looking for the access limitation, we can only connect what we happen to recall in the moment of our encounter. The vast majority of what one has saved, bookmarks, playlists, reading lists, photos, notes, and these are all on different services, which are not almost at all communicating with each other. Still latent, scattered across different services that don't talk to each other. And during our encounters, we don't have access to most of them in a form that could help us in connection forming work. And the second limitation is the bandwidth limitation. You know, uh, that is, our working memories can hold only a few things at a time. So only a limited proportion of the sporadically recalled things are able to interact with one another, and even the interactions aren't as rich as possible in other mediums. These limitations also force us to fall back on our habits and be guided by random engagement maximizing ad optimized algorithms. The result is a quiet and constant underuse of everything we have encountered and saved before. Our resources are fragmented across services and underutilized even with the various platforms. So, we can't go on encountering things and searching stuff like an amnesiac. We all have had rich histories of beings in the world, and we ought to have a medium of interaction that can enable the dynamic entanglement of those histories with the present moment. Search, recommendation systems, and AI assistants are, uh, are useful for the specific functions, but they do not meaningfully address the problem highlighted. None of these tools bring our latent resources in contact with our present encounter in a form that enables greater interactivity between them and assist in the emergence of understanding and decision-making process. We could be scrolling through YouTube, it's a great discovery platform. Instagram, great discovery platform, optimized for engagement. Search, Google, DuckDuckGo, we can search things, but nowhere do we have a tool that that helps you. For one thing, helps you build a library so that whatever thing that you're interacting in your life, you are listening to a podcast, you really like these 2 minutes, and you want to mark them. You went into a bookstore physically, and you want to snap page photo. Yeah.
This is great to hear right now, because this is exactly one of the things I'm trying to build. I believe it is exactly the thing that Eric is trying to build. I believe it is exactly the thing that Tom is trying to build. So it's very nice to hear this perspective. And then what I hope we can do is talk about the interchange and the knowledge objects afterwards, because nobody should have to use the other person's knowledge space. But we desperately need to do what you are such an advocate for, exchange the stuff. So brilliant. Very happy to hear that. Please continue.
The three, I'll just keep going on this over the slides. So I've highlighted the access and the bandwidth. So, currently our access, it's just because, you might have something very relevant saved in your YouTube playlist, but currently you are in a bookstore and browsing through something. You may have stuff from your saved libraries across different platforms that could be relevant to your present encounter, but there is no way that you can access those things meaningfully. So theoretically, you do have access to your resources. You do have access to your YouTube playlists. You do have access to your Instagram saves. But even, for example, even on these, bookmarks used to mean, although we call them bookmarks, but bookmarks in a physical world used to mean very different thing. You had a bookmark. You know this, and you flip it, and you're right there. In these,
No. Continue this bit. I want to add to after. I'm sorry, I'm too enthusiastic.
No, it's okay. You can interrupt. So, in the digital medium, and especially in the services that we have, bookmarks, they reside in the background. We are not actively engaging with those things, and they are just considered for a sort of going back to later. But that going back to later never comes, and we are not just concerned with that part that we are underutilizing those resources. But for my work, I'm also a lot more concerned about the kind of engagements that those latent resources can have during my present encounter. So, even if we were able to access, for example, we are able to access all the things that are relevant to, you're shopping for a shirt and you remember just 4 brands. But there may be another four that you have, right? But you're just not able to remember those. So even if you are somehow able to surface all those eight brands, then too, uh, you know, there comes the bandwidth limitation of our working memories of how this information is presented currently in our mediums. That does not enable a whole lot of interactive engagement between those various things. That I'm calling the bandwidth limitation here. So moving ahead.
No. Can I just?
Yeah. Yes.
When
Yes.
you talk
Please.
about bookmarks, so in this thing that I've been playing with, the origami text, we made some bots, obviously. The bots are stored in the same way that anything else. So a bot is inside an origami text JSON. The reason I'm saying that is there's no reason a bookmark, because it was very evocative what you said, shouldn't be an object. Rather, hi Jamie. Glad you're here. Mohit is presenting, and it's very, very interesting, but we're also talking about how to interchange information. So how we can have many different kinds of things in a really simple JSON-like format, such as you was talking about bookmarks, maybe an entire specification of a bot, maybe a view for how you deal with your information. If these things are clearly labeled as what they are, we should be able to exchange them like a physical bookmark. So I was just riffing on what Mohit was saying. So thank you.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, because the social aspect is really important. Although we are currently because I'm just laying the ground, so to speak. But the social aspect of how other people's information of connects with yours and those stuff, that's especially more important, because we can't have interesting ideas, interesting things just being heads down, looking into just our libraries and just the things that we interact with.
Yeah.
This is just that the thing that all these services and so therefore our resources in them, they live like islands. There is really just no interconnection between them. This I think I have talked a little about how search and recommendation and AI assistance are not able to do this. Although all these systems, they would be of great help in building this and in as properties incorporated in the proposed system. One of the things that I've encountered is before also when I had presented at a telecom company to a telecom company executive was that context is merely considered as this whole this whole connection enterprise is considered as contextualization exercise, that you're just broadening the context. But here, I guess if we look back to those things, to the first, how Karen Broad thinks of ontic epistemic relationships and how distributed cognition and extended mind hypothesis thinks of objects of interaction and how we are processing things, then we wouldn't really be able to say, about about context as something merely just broadening of a field. It's
Kind of in winding down. Do you have do you want to talk about something kind of feature related? Because I think we very strongly agree with your premise.
Okay, great. So I'll just skip ahead. Okay. Just a moment. If I'll just read through some of the things that I've written. I think they would be good. If context were merely decorative for a fixed object, then one could compute the single most relevant things and present them in a ranked list form. But since context is constitutive as the object emerges through the relationships it enters, so ranked lists are a wrong primitive. Instead, presenting many ambiguous, non-ranked, navigable connections and letting the user move through them could be assistive in augmenting both the capacity for assembling relevant things and the kind of interactions possible between them. Following one connection would reshape what else comes into view. So I'll stop. I guess and Jamie wants to say something.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I had to join late, so I that's why I don't know everything that's going on, but this reminds me so much of other work that's been done. It sounds good. We, Jean Tate Sutcliffe years ago wrote an award-winning book about people finding information and saying that when information is provided, it has to be provided in the right order. For information, she was one of the big three in information retrieval. So she said you can't just find the number one most relevant thing. You have to provide it in a sequence to prepare the user, the reader, to understand what they're reading. Secondly, this sounds a lot like Answer Garden, that old hypertext system by was it ACKSYN, who, by the way, for a short time, I think, supervised the non-PhD of Jorn Barger, who the less said about the better. But Answer Garden would give you a block of text, a chunk, and then it would say, if you're interested in this, then read this one. If you're interested in that, then read that. And it would organize trying to find related links. Also, we know from lots of other work that when people read the same text chunk a second or third or nth time, the meaning of it has changed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as I said, I joined late today, so maybe you've already covered all of this, or it's only tangential to what the discussion is today. But I think it's important to keep this in mind because we sometimes in hypertext, the community around the conference, go off in directions that have already been looked at extensively. Not that we've solved any of these problems, but we know things about this. And I believe that I believe context is absolutely essential for explaining why something's relevant, explaining the bias that's inherent in whatever we're reading. Because of course there's always going to be there has to be some bias, otherwise there's no content at all.
Yeah. So on that, Mohit, is it okay if I move on while we mull through?
Yeah, I'm just going to mute myself again.
Okay. As we mull over, and if you want to give me further information to put on the website for today, I'll be very happy to do so. It's very important that we build up the record. Also, Mohit, remind me, are you a Mac user or not?
Mac.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to get you a build of what Eric and I have been working on so that some of this you can experiment with putting there to extract the ideas. So thank you very much. I'm going to take over the sharing for a bit. So, Jamie, I have discovered computing with Claude in Xcode. That's the big thing. Do you use Xcode yourself?
No, I don't.
Okay. I didn't until a week ago. I did no coding. So, okay.
I mean, I have the program. I occasionally upload something into it, but I've never used it for anything serious.
Okay. Now that's cool. That's appropriate. So I'm going to show you briefly, all of you, this app that was made there. Then I'm going to show you, which is more interesting, how it was done. And then Eric's going to talk about a major thing inside it. But I want to start by saying that a key thing, okay, hang on, I'll just go right over here actually. So this mess of windows is Xcode. I'll just find the right one for us to play around with. 1 second. There's a good one. So you can all see my screen, right? So this column here in this center, that is all I use. And I write in here, as some of you saw in the beginning of the call, this is something I wrote before a meeting today. And I say, please research this person. Tell me if there's a feature he's written about that we can implement in the software. And it said yes, and it did it. Okay. So it is exactly like coding in a web browser with AI, but because it has to do it in here, it can't just write a long list of code. It has to use the right libraries, procedures, all of that stuff. So it becomes a lot more robust. And as I said many times, and I still can't believe it, it even refactors automatically when it needs to. So it'll do a lot of the boring stuff that even a top-level programmer just really wouldn't want to do. So I'm just going to make sure I can see you guys. So this is an example that was made that way. And what is really, really important, I think, for the community is if you look here at the settings, there is a tab called Open Source. You can click these two buttons. One of them will just talk about the JSON format we use, which is also very open. The other one describes this whole software to the point where you can give it to an AI in a web browser and say, this is the system. Can you design this thing? And then you describe it, and it'll give it to you, and chances are it will run. Also, and this is what Eric has actually been doing, there is a setting for modules, for views, and it actually has Swift code already. So you can put it in your own Xcode or different ways where you can easily create a view. So I'll show you a few views of this. It does two things now. One is notes and one is letters, because this all started because Eric said, outside of email and the sessions, how do you guys communicate? So I said, well, I'll just have to invent it because now we can. So this is an application that is completely robust and solid, but also probably wrong. And that's really, really key and really, really weird. All of this can be changed. And by the time you see it next week, it will have changed. So it's easy for the community to change. It is not, I've built it, it's brittle, go away. It's the opposite. So here we have some stuff, more stuff. And here you have, on the right, you have the Ted Nelson bot agreeing or disagreeing with things, all kinds of fun things. Below here, it automatically does a connection thing. We have this called the weave. This was expressly made last week to show off. I literally wrote in here, I said to Claude, okay, hang on, I'll do it now. I am in a meeting with the team. It would be good if I can spell. I would like to press Jamie, what's the name of your university again?
Hold on. Dalhousie. D like Delta, A, L, H like house, O, U, S, I like India, E like Echo.
Okay.
My lab's haiku. That's shorter.
Okay. So you probably can't read this, Jamie, because you're on your phone, but I said, I'm in a meeting with the team again. I would like to impress them with a new view. Jamie Bluestein of Hypertext Knowledge is here at Dalhousie University. Based on his work, what really cool view can you make right now? So it's going to go out, try to find you, try to find your recent work, try to find out how it relates to this kind of hypertext, look at the functionality we already have, and then it's going to favor visual impressiveness, not functionality or usefulness or anything boring. And then it's going to give it to us. This could be built, now it's being built just because I happen to have the whole code base installed, but it is on Git. Okay, so this is what it's starting. I'll read it out to you. Jamie Bluestein, let me quickly verify his research themes. I recall wayfinding, navigation, and hypertext, annotation, and active reading, and link quality evaluation. And then build the strongest match fast since you're in a meeting now.
Yep, sounds good. It's just I go by something non-gendered like they, them, not he, him, or she, her.
Okay. So the thing here is, I think we should try to ignore the term AI because it kind of confuses the thing. This, in the production, it's literally having a top programmer, and then the result is a normal piece of software that may have AI in it. I mean, right now, I'm going to show you the bots one because I'm going to make a new bot. Should we make an Engelbart bot?
Yes.
Doug Engelbart, boom, right? So it searches for, what would I possibly mean? Why did it not do anything? That's not cool.
Did you spell the name wrong like I so often do?
It knows you're doing
No,
a demo.
it definitely is something.
Yeah.
Well, that's where, okay, well, let's just, I have to just run through it again. But here's a Ted Nelson bot. So please note that the contents here is mostly rubbish because we're just testing, and only Eric and I have started sending a few actual messages. So here is Eric's plan for Tuesday demo. So Ted Nelson bot would disagree. I've long advocated for the preservation of human creative works across time, not for the technical implementation of proprietary data structures. So this is what you would expect a normal modern AI to do, right? And of course you click through to that, and then you get the document in question. So bots can be here. Nothing inherently wrong with them. Okay, so what it's doing now, having researched to Jamie, it's confirmed APIs, writing new local first, would publish to community using the format, checking the glossary and all of that stuff. So while that's happening, I can also tell you that the thing that has been discussed a lot, the origami text format for EPUB, is now live in this. So this can publish to EPUB in a very, very simple. So if I show you here in Finder, no, that's draft. Published here. Sorry, I've been really messing things up here. Okay, here's an EPUB. It'll just open in Apple Books, right? I'm getting a request. Sometimes when you do this kind of coding, it needs your express permission to do something in the terminal, which is nice, bit of a safety. So this is a book produced by the system that opens in a normal EPUB reader, nothing special, but it contains the full metadata on the same level, visual meta. So that means that you still have paragraph level addressability. All that stuff is there. And that is only possible because of this. You know, a few weeks ago, this was something that Vince Cerf and I wrote to the ACM Communications magazine, an article about as a theoretical maybe. And now I've done 2 different implementations to test it. Here we go. So what it's done is make something called glossary in the sidebar. Press run and demo it. Why this view for Bluestein? His haiku group at Dalhousie is built on reader-controlled meaning-making, annotation with textual glosses, personal glossaries. His 2004 ACM paper with Mona Noor, and explicitly not auto-generated links. The reader makes the connections. So this view generates nothing. It is the reader's glossary projected across the community. This is very similar to my work, Jamie. I'm very happy to hear that. So I'm going to go full screen.
This is so much easier than working with WordPress.
So here we go. Choose a term. What do I do here? Okay, I'm just going to, okay, here you go. Bottom left, give me a term, please, anybody.
Hypertext.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. And then we have, give me a sentence description.
Text that branches at various points, allowing the reader to be in control.
Yeah, I'm just going to do it that simple. Right, there it is. Here we have this. Let's just see what it says we can do with it. We click the term, the adopt menu. Good. Oh, wow. Hang on, let's just check this. No, that doesn't work. I'm just going to do chocolate. The food. Oh, that's weird. It found instantly where I have used that term in an article. So this is about defining stuff and finding it in the.
Well, you could try something you know is in there, like you could try Word or origami.
Yeah, boom, right, here it is. Would you like to see these glossary terms connected visually?
Sure.
By the way, when this kind of coding, it's not just sent off to Claude. My computer, which is an M4, what is it? M4 Max with 128 gigs of RAM is now running the fan. It's really boiling over. So after this little thing, we will go over to Eric talking about the implementation he's working on for Ted's side of things. But this was basically me showing you that coding, it's not really coding, is it? Telling our friend Claude, while Claude is inside, and what I mean by inside is literally this. This is the settings in Xcode, intelligence, just allow it to run. You could also use Codex from OpenAI or Gemini, but just allow it and it does this stuff.
It is so frustrating because we got a big warning about not being allowed to use anything except our dumbed down version of Copilot.
That's frustrating.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we need to work outside of organizational boundaries. So on your home computer, you can do this. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I use Kaggy for a project, but it wasn't. I guess if I don't involve any student or school information, I might be able to get away with it. I have to double check
That's work.
because
What
the
institution are you
warnings
with,
were
Jane?
really severe.
What institution are you with, Jamie?
Dalhousie.
Oh, that's right. You said that. All right.
Yeah, they actually demoed for us stuff you can do with all kinds of other systems and said, but you're not allowed to do this.
So
I have a coffee date with the chief technology officer very soon. We'll be bringing it up again.
Yeah, I'm definitely skating outside the lines at my institution at Houston City College, but they're not really paying attention. So when asked recently what was the biggest thing that HCC ever did to support my work with AI, I said, he's sitting over there. It's my chair, and he leaves me alone.
Yes.
Tom, are you going to install Xcode?
Probably not. I just don't have time to mess with this.
No, I think you should, because it'll give you a lot of more time back. Because your knowledge navigator, I mean, I'm going to work another week on this and cleaning it up, because if you guys agree, I'm going to separate that letters thing that Eric initially talked about away from the knowledge of the notes. Once I have those two apps, then Tom, you can so easily, and I'm very happy to have a Skype call to Skype. There you go. A Zoom call.
You just aged yourself.
to go through the initial stuff, because even though we're all technologists here, we are in very different areas, and this can look complicated, and it is bloody not. The only
Oh
thing
no, it's not
hard-
that.
No,
The reason I probably not is because not because of its complexity, because it's no more complex than working with Python or other things like that.
a lot
It's
less.
but it's very unidirectional because it only pushes you out into Mac world, and I need something a little more broad based than that.
Like what?
Well, I mean, I don't want to be restricted in any way at this point, because there's a lot of different ways that well, once I get to the knowledge navigator thing, I've kind of the actual coding stuff right now, I've kind of backburnered a little bit because I'm doing a lot of work on the logic, and so that may not happen, and I'm doing a lot of testing of the logic side of things. So the coding itself is probably not going to. Probably not going to do a major code sprint until after Christmas at this point.
I would two things, Tom. First thing is the only thing I know you said you use Python, but I have to say it because I think it's such a cool sentence. Where are you guys? I can't see you. Hang on, I'm trying to get you back. There you are. The only thing hard about this kind of programming is not talking about it all the time. It's that overwhelming. And here's the really key thing. If you make a perfect Mac version or iOS version or Vision OS version, you can then tell the system to export the exact specification so another AI in another platform can ingest it and rebuild it. That's part of the magic.
Now, does that actually work? Because I was coding with Kagi, well, whatever special version of somebody else's AI Kagi has, and I kept saying for this visualization, export exactly the specification. So when I start again, I can get the same visualization. It never worked. There were always things that left out, or things that, because they were in natural language, were somehow ambiguous to it. The closest I got was importing an image and saying, scan this image, and changed all the labels and all the arrows, but use the same style. Have you tried it to verify that the export works?
Not for that, but what I have
Okay.
done is I built the EPUB export into Author and to this, made it test both versions, said there were issues with both, and then revised both. So I can do round trips, but I'm going to do one more thing, and then we're going to go over to Eric. I know we're running out of time, but if you guys are, I'm certainly happy to be here longer. So I'm just going to, it's not alphabetical for some reason. So I'm just going to do, yeah, by the way, here's Eric.
A lot of letters I sent you.
I'm going to do new author, and I'm going to do, Jamie, can you easily text me or send me your ORCID ID?
If you go to my homepage, you can find it.
Is it in your email signature by any chance?
No, I think it's in my it's on my homepage, then it's one page down from my homepage. Let me see if I can find it in my contacts.
So this is a bit mind expanding, guys. I'm not trying to slow things down, trust me. So here's your page here.
Okay, hold on.
Here it is. Okay. So
Okay.
I copy that. And then I go, I'm making a new contact entry. So I just add ORCID ID here. Search. Oh, it didn't like the way it was done. Hang on, I'm going to click on the link and copy from here. That's weird. Will it allow me to search now? Now I can search because it can do a match. Okay, whatever, it didn't work. But then I can do this, find a photo of you.
There shouldn't be very many.
Okay, put your head back a little bit. I'm going to take a picture of you from our chat here. I need your full head, please, sir. Okay, and don't move because the bandwidth's bad. Going to do it 1, 2, okay. So this, what I'm showing you now, took literally 10, 15 minutes to add, okay? So now I do choose a photo, go to the desktop, there it is. So it adds a little bit of a gray frame about it because I wanted uniform pictures of humans. It then renders it in a cartoon style that I have specified. There you go. Got the hat and everything. So I can save that. And now you're listed here somewhere. Why is this not? Yeah, there you are. Right. So it's a little bit of eye candy, but it's also useful
Yeah.
because, you know, profile pictures are always weird, right? So if you do something like
Yes.
author
Yeah,
search,
this is
you know, you can actually tell who people are. Yeah, so that was that. Now, what Eric's going to talk about is these views. So he's been working on a view similar to this that is easily, for anybody, not just a coder, plug in and plug outable. Any questions before we hand over to Eric?
So before
Eric.
yeah, thank you. So before I share my screen, I just want to frame a question for us to think about. We've seen demos where Doug Engelbart had his emails in NLS journal entries. Well, why don't we have that today? And what could we build for ourselves? How could we organize our documents and our ideas for dimensional navigation in XR that leverages Ted Nelson's zzstructure concepts? So that's what I want to show. Desktop 2. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so here's a bunch of emails that I've been sending to Frode and the team, and I decided to put them into this app. So this is Xcode, and this is the app, the origami text running, and these are all in my drafts folder. And I want to point you to one of the emails that I sent, which is the prompt that we gave Claude for generating a zzstructure view in this app. So we told it to read this paper, which is, if anybody knows MC Schraffel from Southampton, let me know. But this is
Yeah. Monica's not there anymore, but yeah.
Oh,
I
cool.
don't think she is, but
All right. Well, this is a very interesting paper because it put Ted Nelson's ideas in graph theory. Okay. So we told it to read the paper and then design a data structure to enable dimensional navigation of a zzstructure, and gave it some technical details of what we wanted and what dimensions I wanted. And then Frode said, I discussed this with Claude, and then he sent this brief that Claude generated. And this is, and see, it mentions Eric's tuple verbatim, so it understood what I was saying, and it created a brief which was used as input to Claude Code. And then Frode let it run for a while, and eventually it created this view, zzstructure. And let me just walk you around it a little. So what I want to do is go to user person and change the x-axis to user person. And I've recreated Ted Nelson's family tree demo. So let's start at Elizabeth II. Now we're on a person dimension in X, but what's new about this, it's showing which dimensions are connected. So Elizabeth has a marriage connection, so let's put that on X. So she's married to Philip. And now let's go back to Elizabeth and let's put her children on Y. And she has a child named Charles who married Diana, who had William and Harry. So we can continue expanding this family tree now. So, so this is what it generated, and there are some things we have to work on with cloning, because Charles has another marriage that we'd have to represent in the system, but this is a proof of concept. And that's all I really want to show there. Okay, so now let's see. So it's easy enough. I just want to show you what I would do. So say we wanted to add William's wife, Catherine. Well, this is a draft document, and you could say anything in a document. You could say who their children are, but what we want to do is publish this draft. So if I control click it, I have to do an export, and it asks me some questions. Is this a letter, RFC, personal, whatever? And you could say if it was produced by AI, but all we're doing is saving it as a letter. And now it is in the published directory. So these are all the things that are published. Now I could go back to zzstructure and get back to where I was. So, but remember, this is just a first draft, but we could do anything we want with this now. So let's put the person on X and go back down, put the children, marriage on X and children on Y. And there's even a Z axis too, which we could use. You can actually navigate it with the option and the arrows. So what we want to do is add William. We want to add, so we have X has marriage and there's a plus sign here. So that's for adding, okay, now look at that. It showed my documents and we can just find Catherine in here. Let's see, I don't see her in there, but oh, there's also this linking. So we have to figure out how to use this, and it has the H and I views that Ted Nelson demonstrated. But the point is we have defined a data structure now, which can be taken out of this app and done in a WebXR view as well. And let me just show you before I get to that, I wanted to show you another document that I have here it is. Okay, so it's JSON data and it has an ID for each cell. It has a slug for the document ID. And then I was able to walk through, look up the GUIDs and see the contents of a document. And then it has the visual meta, and then it's really defining a zigzag data structure with negative and positive IDs and cells. It enforces the rule of only one connection between a positive and a negative on any specific dimension. So people can read this and get an example exactly how to build this kind of structure. And many different views can be designed against the same data structure. If you remember the GZZ team that built the demo that Ted demonstrated, they had different views of the same data and they were morphing between them. So, so this needs some work. And but the next thing I want to talk about is decentralized data, because right now, these documents are on Frode's machine and my machine, and we're emailing that back and forth. But what if we could build our own decentralized file sharing system? Well, with Claude, I was able to build a Node.js application, which I call FTL Box, and it's on GitHub. I'm just going to copy that, and I'll put it in chat. So anybody can read this and to download it, try it out. So it's a proof of concept for peer-to-peer file sharing for our community, and it's using hyperdrives, which Hole Punch is the company that maintains that code now. It used to be the DAT project a while ago. But I have a link to the code, the chat that generated all this code, and I asked it a lot of questions about local first architecture, because you have to think about your threat model where you're going to use this. Between our community is not much of a threat model. I run a server. I have a peer that you could connect to, or I could put it on a Raspberry Pi, and we could share with each other. Okay, so just some recommendations technically, but and you could add issues to this repo if you have questions or anything. But here's a sample session. Now I just want to show you the commands. This is a command line application, and if you learn these commands, you can use this. And here's just a sample session that I want to show you what it can do. So I started up, and the list command is showing me which hyperdrives I have. well, I start with nothing, so I decide to create one, and it's on my living room Mac. So it created a drive called from LR, and it gave me a public key. And this is the key that I would share with my Mac upstairs or someone else who wants to see the files in this drive. So then I had a file in it, a zip file, and then I added the contents. Okay, I had a directory, and then I added the contents of that directory to the hyperdrive. So the hyperdrive is versioned, so it's now at version 2. And then I told it to seed it. So seeding it means that it puts it on, announces it on the network, which is using a distributed hash table. And it's saying, leave this running so peers can connect. So while this is acting like a server, then I can go to another machine and I could say, okay, I want to register that key, which just makes it easier for me to use it in the future. Rather than typing that key, I could give it a name. Okay, and now I could ls to list what's in that hyperdrive, and it tells me it's a remote hyperdrive. That's the key. It's at version 2, one file, 34K, and it's a zip file. Okay, so now I can ask it what versions exist. Well, there's versions 1 and 2. So I could keep adding to that drive, and I could go back and pull a specific version if I want to go back to an older version of a document, because it's an append-only log. Okay, so then I pull the name, and I put it in my own name. So like if Frode was pulling this, he may say from Eric, but it's so that he can keep track of where this came from. And now this is what's in it. Like I received that file. And then I went back to the server machine, which is in the living room, and it's just a peer. So I stopped the seed and I added another file. And this is one of the documents that Frode sent me, an origami text file. And I put it in that I added it to this from living room hyperdrive, and I seeded it again. So now it's at version 3. It announces it on the DHT. So anyone on the world can actually get to my Mac, or I could put this on a Raspberry Pi, because Hole Punch can get through firewalls. Yeah, go ahead, Frode.
Are you saying that we should build this into the app? I think we should.
Well, I asked it about that. See, this is Node.js, and there are ways of integrating it. We really just have to understand how that integration would work, because you're in Mac versus, it's possible. Just keep it in mind for the future. But I think we can play with this and get a workflow down, and eventually the app can probably automate copying the files to these directories and initiating a seeding, or say you just use a Raspberry Pi, and we could automate that in the future. But I'm just showing you what's possible here. So now you could check the versions. You have now versions 1 through 3, and I could do a diff now, and it could tell me exactly what was changed. So I added this document from Frode, and I pull it, and now I have it in my directory. And now the diff shows I'm up to date and just has information. So this is very powerful if we understand the threat model, that it's really peer-to-peer sharing with each other. But if it's just for a small community like ours, it's possible. So we'll take questions now. I'm going to stop share.
Sorry, I had to step to the side. I could hear that. And yes, for a small community like us, I think this is definitely something we should try, because for the first time in history, we can. We can build stuff, throw it away. We can share stuff, change how we share stuff. I'm all for that. I have a question based on stepping back to the previous kind of architecture. So in origami text, we have letters and notes, really. What I think we should do is keep those two separate apps. So we have one where we message each other, and then we have the notes as kind of a thinking space. Now, the thinking space, knowledge space, whatever, should be able to read all of the other things, But having just designed the interface and gone through it, it gets a bit messy having too much in the same thing. You want to do a thing in a thing, not have a mess of menus. Eric, what do you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, you can probably add some attributes to the data structure to create folders or things like that. Yeah, it's like a flat list of files right now. But I'm also thinking Zigzag can help us organize connections between our documents. So like with all those emails, how many of them were prompts to Claude that we shared with each other, things like that. So you can have a dimension of Claude. Yeah.
So here's the thing. This is kind of fun. If I post a transcript, then I tag it as a transcript. It's clearly a transcript, but it finds all your names. But also, sometimes I want Claude to write on my behalf, like we all do. So then I post it as by Claude, posted by Frode Hegland.
Yeah, I saw that.
So it has both attribution. So you can sort it on either, but it is a Claude statement, but I'm the reason it's here. Because also, Tom, some of the things you wrote in emails while testing, I posted it as a letter to the community as Tom by Frode Hegland. As in, it's clear that I did it. So if I'm lying, everybody knows I'm lying. It's just so we can get content in there. Or maybe you want to put Socrates in there or whatever. So yeah, that makes sense, Eric.
Yeah, so I think we just need to dream about this a little bit. Like what could be done here, and then how could this be taken into XR?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, as you're talking now, I just asked my dear friend Xcode to build a new, this is a really important example. So I asked it to build a new app called Knowledge Space. Nothing existed other than an entry in the App Store, which is empty. I said, take the code from origami text that deals with notes, because I'm going to leave the letters. So again, talking like a human to it. So now it's going to give me that infrastructure. So that means that, Tom, if you ever do want to do Xcode stuff, you may want to take this, I'll put it on Git. You walk through Xcode and you say, steal all of Frode's code for this. But I want it to be called I want it to be called Knowledge Navigator. Absolutely appropriate to do. The only thing I hope we can do together is, I've designed a format, origami text.json. I'm not a genius in that space. I expect in our community, it may be changed so much it'll be completely different in a short while. Fine. But at some point, we have to settle on something to interchange. So Mohit's context, Eric's distributed list, Tom's knowledge navigator, and so on. We can send stuff to each other. Right? I mean, it is absurd how little we can send to each other now.
Yeah, and go back to Engelbart's vision where you had all your emails in a journal, you could reference them, point out a paragraph, and citing.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly the kind of stuff I've been doing. So it's really wild because it only came together today. So I had this meeting with Dave Millard in Southampton. And let me just show you the simplicity of it here on my phone. So I have a little app that is supposed to be for voice notes. When I open this, right, super simple. I just press the microphone. So now I pressed the wrong button.
Is this a standard Apple thing? Because I use that sometimes.
It's not. It's similar to a standard Apple thing, but I built it so it produces two outputs. One output is what I'm saying now goes in my normal Apple calendar under this minute. So I can go through my calendar and see the notes. For instance, now I'm talking about how great this meeting is. It also attaches the location and it goes into my origami text tool. So I'm going to change it so it goes into my knowledge base tool. But the fact that it tags it by location and time properly, the stuff we in our community have talked about timelines for decades now. Technically trivial, interface-wise, still a challenge. So now we can do it.
I'm just an idea occurred to me when you're talking about the location. It's going to be your geographical location. It's not going to be I'm in this meeting, I'm in this seminar. It's going to be I'm in this room in this of my house. Right.
That is a challenge, Jamie, and a
Well,
great
as I
question.
said, it only occurred to me just this instant, but it's something we should think about. I don't know how much of a priority though.
Jamie, that's my revolutionary thought. Sorry, I just took a bit of chocolate. The fact that we don't know, now let's find out. What would it mean? How would we be able to tell it that we're on a Zoom call? Maybe it has to check our calendar already. If we're on a scheduled Zoom call, tag that in. But if you see the my screenshot here that I just put in the chat,
Mhm.
even though it's on my iPhone, it's already bloody there. Come on, how insane is that?
Yeah. And what's going to be really scary is if you can search for the things that the FBI recorded when the FBI was eavesdropping.
Yeah, and others. Hang on.
Well, no, you need to filter out which organization was listening to which parts.
So that's funny. I just asked this to. Wait. I'm building an app that hasn't been. Oh, this is exciting. Hang on. Origami text. Open. See if it works. All right, check this out. So you see on the left here, right? That's the origami text icon, which is a square, but it almost looks like a folded envelope or folded. I've put it 90 degrees, 45 degrees or whatever. I made it knowledge space icon. Here it is. This was just happening in the background. Simple prompt. Here are all my notes. Same folder, still works. This is what I just said. Oh, there's this what I just said. I don't even know how it's listed it. But it goes here. And for some reason, it has backlinks to Nelson bots. I don't know if we want that. So we can deal with this. This is completely empty beginning. Kind of wild, right?
Yes.
If you looked here, it says the address of the city. This is Norway a few days ago, yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was driving up from Southampton now in the car, I can see on the map what village I was closest to.
So look at all this metadata that you can collect and then think about how Zigzag can organize that metadata as you navigate.
Exactly. The opportunities now are amazing. And
why is she not?
Eric, I'm very, very grateful that you joined us to prod us and also product us.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we're a little bit over time, just a touch. Tom, just going to detour to you for a minute. Obviously, you would like your knowledge navigator to be available not just in the closed Apple ecosystem, and you want it to have incredibly strong capabilities. Now, one of the things Mohit has been really pushing on, if I understand you, Mohit, and this has been my realization over the last few days. So I think basically, it took me a while to understand your first presentation, Mohit. Point is, we would like relevant information to come to us, not to have to go to it, right? It sounds like an easy thing to say, but when you are dealing with a piece of information, through easy action, you should be able to see other things in your life, other things in the world, pro and con. You should be able to navigate around it, right? Would you like to talk a little bit about how your dreams are for this, Tom, and then see how it fits with Eric and Mohit? And of course,
Well,
Tim,
I mean,
you'll be part of this too, so also in relation to you. Sorry. Please go on, Tom.
no, I mean, I actually found Mohit's talk very much in alignment with the kind of thinking I'm doing in terms of this. The term relevant information is not a fixed concept. You know, what's relevant today may not be relevant tomorrow, or you know, and what's important is constantly shifting. And this is the fundamental problem we have with information management, is knowing what's important and what's not. We spend an incredible amount of time hunting through data sources to try to find that nugget of important information. I'm pretty good at it myself, but even there, I feel like I'm missing so much in terms of just anything I'm looking at. There's always another layer. There's always more stuff. So the idea behind the Knowledge Navigator is to provide you with a picture of information that shows you patterns that help you figure out what's relevant and what's not, or what's important and what's not, and where those connections are. And so recently I was working with Claude, and it kind of reframed the priority, and basically it said for the clustering aspect of it. So the idea would be you'd feed in the information, the documents, and it would look for clusters of information. That's a strong connection issue, right? So those connections, it's looking for stronger connections there. But if I also want to say, okay, I have this body of work or this project that I'm working on, and I'd like to see if anybody else is working on this. And so maybe it reaches out and it says, oh, look, Mohit's done this thing or so on and so forth, that it will then find that. Now that's a weak connection issue, right? So that's kind of the opposite. I may actually end up putting a switch in, although I'm still thinking through the logic on this a bit. And the idea is that the AI is generating the language model is the one that's generating the connections and presenting me with options. It's not that I'm putting I can do this already in terms of mind mapping and stuff like that, but then I'm putting my finger on it. And I'm the one who's determining what's important and what's not. And if I have a blind spot, I'm going to miss something. And there are a lot of people with a lot of blind spots in this world. And there are a lot of companies with a lot of blind spots. And education and learning is all about overcoming your blind spots and understanding that you have them in the first place. If you ever want someone who is intellectually very confident of themselves, talk to a 3-year-old. But they have no conception of what their blind spots are, because they're like, I know everything, at this point. So, and some people remain that way for the, I wasn't going to go there, especially since this is recorded. But yeah, I mean, that's sort of the idea, is that you have the complexity of the truth thrown in your face, and then you have to come up with the reasoning to do that.
So Tom,
Deal
you
with
and
that.
me,
Yes.
in a way, are at exactly the same spot in our lives, because on this side of the fence, I just made an empty shell called knowledge space. You've been working on your knowledge navigator. Right now, we're at the point where when you open up the app, stuff can be there. So if you actually do the Xcode and whatever AI you want, I can give you this original code or not, whatever you want, but you can actually say what you just said. But in fact, this is recorded. There will be a transcript. I can send you the quote via this format to you. You can give that to an AI inside, and it will build you what you just said. As I've said many times, it may do it wrong. Then you tell it what you want to change. Once it works, whether or not it can be given to another AI like Jamie was talking about earlier might not work. To a degree, it doesn't matter, because this becomes a very, very affordable, not free, affordable, incredible prototyping tool for ideas.
Sure. And that's great. My big thing right now is that I have come to the realization that the questions that the AI essentially, or the model, asks itself, or the questions that the humans ask of the model, are an extremely important part of the process, and that they can't simply be factually based. They have to be reasoning based. And so what I'm trying to build right now is what I call the reasoning loop, where you can basically check your own thinking. And the idea being that you would upload a chat log, for instance. And that my one of the things I'm going to do with my students next semester is I'm going to have them upload a chat log into this reasoning loop, and then have it give them an analysis of the level of thinking that they're doing. But you could see anybody doing that, right? And so the question is, to the extent that I'm looking at maybe folding that into the Knowledge Navigator, it's also given me an idea for another product altogether, which is to build a custom reasoning LLM that's basically something you could sell to schools that all it would do is essentially work at reasoning levels, right? And I don't know which way that's going to go yet. So I'm trying to, I have kind of backed off on the pressure on myself to complete the Knowledge Navigator quick and dirty, and said, I want to think this through because it could really change a lot of things, not just learning, but also just in general, people's ability to do self-reflection and to be able to work in an AI environment, because this is what sets us apart from the AIs, is that higher level thinking. And if we can do that, then we'll be much better shape than if we can't. And the problem is that most of our education is very much on the information slot machine model. You ask me a question, I give you a piece of information, and that's how we treat the AIs. Tell me what the tallest building in the world is.
So an ironic question to you, Tom, would be, what you just talked about now, have you discussed it with your AI?
Yes.
Have you gotten to the point where, okay, what you use Claude as well, right?
Yes, I use Claude and Gemini. I go back and forth.
Why don't we do this right now?
Mm-hmm.
Go to your dear Claude, or Shannon, as I like to call it, and say, your friend is bugging you to build a tool based on our discussions. What would the spec be for another AI to build my dream?
Okay.
These meetings used to be 2 hours, by the way, which is what we're up against now. Do you
We
guys
started at
start
10:30.
half an hour earlier? That's probably better for Mohit.
Yeah, what time is it where you are, Mohit?
10:30. Yeah, it's okay, guys. It's okay.
Oh, that's not too
We can
bad.
continue. Yeah.
It's funny because when I go out and walk early in the morning, we have a lot of South Asians in the neighborhood now, and they're all out on their phones because it's like the perfect time to call India. Anyway, so say that again, Frodo, what you said in terms of the prompt. My friend is bugging me to
Actually build this.
actually build the Knowledge Navigator.
As far as you understand from our discussions, could you present me with a spec I can give to an AI to implement?
AI chatbot? Is that what you said?
No, just an AI to implement.
Oh, to implement.
If you want to, for the result, share a screen, that could be fun, or whatever you prefer.
No, it's fine. Problem is I have multiple chats going on at the same time, so hopefully I picked the right one.
This is exciting. It's kind of weird, isn't it? Do you guys also use Claude, the rest of you? At least partly?
No. Yeah, I have it installed, but I'm not using it.
Okay,
But
you
I
just
should,
have to use
but
it.
I should. Yeah.
A very weird thing is to see that little spinner and the text in someone else's world. It's almost like an intimacy intrusion. This is how some of us see our intimate thoughts back and forth. And now I'm like staring into Tom's brain, and he's not sure what's going to be spat out. And it's all very, very exciting.
Well, I'm not sure about that even when I'm not using a large language model. But but that makes it fun. I'm
So
not at all.
So you're
Yeah,
on Sonnet, I see.
yeah, I'm running Sonnet just because the level of thing that I'm working with right now, it does just fine for that. And if I run Opus, I start running out of tokens too fast before I can finish the conversation. To me, having the longer conversation is worth it.
I think you should. Okay, let's see what it says. Interesting.
See, it is my head. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's just so this coding in Xcode with an AI
mhm,
makes me feel like I'm 20 years old. It
mhm.
means the
No,
future's
I know.
and
I
I
can
can't
tell.
understand it. Yeah.
And honestly, playing with AI makes me feel like I'm 20 years old in college, and I have a faculty of professors that I can go bug at any time, and because I treated college very differently than most people do.
Yeah.
I will say that very clearly in the sense that I looked at it as a learning adventure and not as something that I had to get past me to get a degree or anything like that. And that's I have learned too much to my chagrin that almost no one else thinks about it that way. It's my mother's fault. She went to college for the hell of it when she was 40. And she actually graduated better than I did because she wasn't partying with her friends in the same way, although she did have young children. Um,
Yeah, I'm also thinking about, sorry, I'm just putting Mohit's slideshow on there. Where's the copy? Anyway, I'll do that after. It's also that since we can build now, it's a great bullshit detector. Are we
mhm.
just ruminating or are we doing something? So why don't you have a skim through that, Tom, and see if it reflects your situation?
I was just going to share it here if you guys want to see. Uh,
Yeah, it's the same as on the side. Yeah, yeah, this is perfect.
I just sharing the markdown.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I know. Da, 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 da. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is giving me a completely different viewpoint on it again. It isn't looking at the code that we've already built either. Although I would say the code that we've already built is largely functional in the sense of just taking documents and turning them the into a graphic and but also in theory doing it randomly.
Yeah.
think there is a need for some slow thinking when you're looking at projects of this scope. Like take this,
Mm-hmm.
think about it for a day, and then you'll come back in the morning. You may want to modify what it wrote before you submit it. Yeah,
I think a day is still not slow enough.
yeah, I agree.
Sometimes this takes months to percolate.
Yeah,
And I'm kind of in the verification mode because I'm learning new things about how other people think, which is something that's always been kind of a black box for me. And so, which is a real liability as a teacher. But the being able to read other people's thinking through their chat logs is really an interesting experience and something that it's something that I've wanted for 20 years in a sense because I see the end product of what they build, but I'm like, how the hell did you get here? You know, it's like, and that happens all the time. But now I can look at the chat logs and also, but now the next step is, can I get them to create their own loop where they're looking at the chat logs in a critical way and thinking about their thinking and learning how to think better. And that I think is how many times can I use think in one sentence? That I think is really absolutely critical, not only for students learning to operate in the world that we live in today, but also for current professionals who've been handed an AI and told, hey, use this, right? Like Jamie's institution, or don't use this. And without, the people who are making the policies clearly haven't thought through the reasoning behind those policies. And I see this all the time. But there's so many different layers to this. I mean, it's everything from, but we've got to get at that high level, that creative level of thinking in order to be able to move the ball forward. And this group operates at that level a lot. But most groups don't. I will say that with a high degree of certainty. Most of the other meetings I participate in are not that self-reflective in terms of, well, we're doing this because we've always done this. Well, it's not a good reason.
yeah. I think there's a need to structure the environment and situations that you're giving these students so that they're
Hmm.
motivated to want to think at a higher level. Certain, yeah, it's a tricky
Right, but the
problem.
real challenge is that, especially in the online anytime classes, is I don't have that time with them
Yeah, I know.
because I never actually see them, and so um, I've noticed a divergence in success rate between my online anytime and the classes where I actually have interactive sessions. There's a significant, it's like 50%. You have a 50% higher chance of passing if you're in something that has either the Zoom class or an in-person class than if you take an online anytime class. It's that much. And so what I'm trying to do, and the other thing is, as a manager, if you're dealing with a large company and you're like, okay, I got to get everybody up to speed on this, you can't tell them to think. You have to have a mechanism for showing them, training them to think.
Right.
And so that's kind of what the objective of this part of the project is. The knowledge navigator is a tool for thinking to show you these connections in a way that that Nelson and Engelbart were talking about. And so the that's a visualization tool. Um, but now I'm thinking also about as I thinking a much more clear, a much more targeted thinking tool. Then you can use the knowledge navigator once you've figured out what to do with it. Yes, Frode.
I'm just certainly I saw you spec. Hang on. Boom. Okay. Um, my train of thought was as follows, because obviously I'm living in my world. If your students had to communicate using letters, as in the digital JSON letters that we have, what might be interesting is because the way it's set up right now is it's mostly based on replies. So if I
Mm-hmm.
pick up one of Eric's letters, I can just reply, but it's just as easy to say agree, disagree, a few basic link types, right? What if at the point of sending, the system looks at the original, what I wrote, and gives it a bit of an analysis and says, spot on, or what are you on about? That doesn't have to be adhered to, but it may help the students privately reflect when you're told it's rubbish, not publicly, so they can go back and edit the letter and then send it, like a pre-flight, logical pre-flight.
Yeah, except that I think certainly for the student perspective, but I think anybody who's trying to learn, you want to do a post flight in a sense, because if you do a pre-flight, they don't understand why
Oh
it's
yeah, no,
telling them to do
no, they write the reply, but as they send it, the systems say, hang on, let me have a look at this. And then they say, yeah, this is brilliant. I'll send it to the teacher or whatever. Well, hello, Jamie, that's the coolest background.
I am in my office.
Hi. We usually don't go on this late, so I'm glad you came back.
Yeah, I mean, I don't. Again, I part of the objective here is to get people to think at this level. Maybe down the road as a tool, I could see that, but at this point, I'm trying to get people to think outside themselves, to think critically in a way that we always talk about in education, but never actually accomplish. Because at the end of the day, it's only a question of, well, what do you want me to say? Like, I want you to think for yourself, please. I'm always reminded, one of my favorite scenes in all the movies is that scene from Life of Brian, where he's standing out over the crowd and, he's trying to convince them that he's not the Messiah. And he says, "You're all different." And one guy goes, "I'm not." It's just like
I remember
classic.
that.
Yeah, and so and that really kind of makes your head spin a little bit. But I get that, right? I'm trying to tell my students, you're all different, and they're all saying, no, we're not. Yeah, just give us the grade and pass us on our way. Leave me alone. And that's very common because they've been trained into that. But I also think that the most of the workers in the world today have gone through that educational system. And some of us break out of that doom loop, and a lot, but most people don't. And so they're much more willing to accept the orthodoxy, whether that's coming from a political leader or from their manager.
Mm.
It makes sense in an industrial environment that everybody is walking in lockstep, and it makes sense that movements like Nazism and communism, as it existed under the Soviet Union, came out of an industrial mindset because everybody's moving in lockstep. I mean, that's really the point politically. And so, but we do it here too. I mean, management theory in the United States, in a lot of parts, most of the world, comes from Ford, and Ford based their management theory on their assembly line. And so it should come as no shock that instead of producing Model Ts, we're producing memos, but it's the same goddamn thing most of the time, right? And so that's the part where I'm trying to break the training, because school is very much, education is also, we produce students in the way that we used to produce that we produce cars, and that's, students aren't cars, people aren't cars, and and if they're all automated all the time, those are the jobs that AI is going to eat for lunch, because AI can do that too. If they're only ever operating at those low levels of thinking. So really the goal here is not so much the work itself, but it's the mechanism of the work to get their brains to operate at a different level. And this is true whether I'm talking about training industrial or people who are in, companies and stuff. It's also true though about training students. And I also realize how incredibly disruptive that is to the system, and how much resistance from a systemic perspective that's going to engender, which is another reason why I want to automate it. And I'll say to people, here's a tool. You want to be successful in this world, use this tool. Don't listen to your boss. Don't listen to your other professors. Use this tool. And when you can think for yourself, then you're going to have a much better shot at it. If you just sort of blindly follow along, I can't help you. And that's why, I mean, again, I study a lot of systems theory too, but that's also why this is designed to work in the way that it does. And I initially started with the Knowledge Navigator as a tool for visualizing information in a creative way. it built, it's built for me in many ways because I'm like, I want to see these worlds in a different way, and I've done it myself, but it's very labor intensive to make a concept map of all of the things, and you're always going to miss stuff, and you're always going to bias it because of who you are, and so you're going to immediately go. And when I've done this for other people, I have to make judgment calls about this is important and this isn't, and that may be perfectly logical to me, but not necessarily logical to them. And so that's where this all came from, where the knowledge navigator all came from. But what I've realized in the interim, I mean, I've already got a knowledge navigator. It's just text-based. This is my knowledge navigator. It has its flaws. It's difficult to keep track of all the threads, but I can literally sit down here and say, tell me how this relates to augmenting human intellect, and it will, right? And or zigzag.
But John, so here's the exciting bit. There is a difference between tell me and show me.
Yep.
So
I agree.
I know you agree because I've seen your visualizations. There's a lot of stuff. It's certainly not a chatbot thing, right? So I'm going to try to build it now.
Okay.
I'm going to try to build it as a view.
As a what?
As a view.
A view. Okay.
Yeah.
I understood as a beer.
So let's have it, because there's a few things going on here. So I've created knowledge space. Here we go. I have to allow based on what was in origami text, but I'm removing things, adding things, blah, blah, blah. Here I am, I just added to origami text to change. Hang on, I just want to be able to see you guys. Okay, there you are. Yeah, it's changing a lot of stuff based on very simple prompts. So I hope that within not too many seconds. Okay, let me just, as an example of how this works. I have told the system that the iOS version of origami text should no longer take notes. All it should do is show incoming letters and let you reply to them. So it's doing all of that by itself now, right? Crazy. Once that's done, because I wasn't very clever with timing, I'm going to click a button and I said, can you make a view based on this? It's from Tom in the group. It should be called K Navigator or KNav. I just don't want it to be your name because it isn't yours in the sense that I am just stealing your idea right now. I don't want to pretend that.
But this is all going on YouTube.
Yeah, but what I mean is, if you like it, take it. But I'm not going to pretend that this is the real Tom Hames knowledge.
Yeah.
Right. So
well, I don't know what that is. I don't know what the real Tom Hames is anymore either. So
I think I know.
We can run a diff.
There you go.
Yeah, so while we're waiting, I just wanted to comment on what you said about how important it is to show and the visual aspect of it. Well, one day headsets will be really cheap and everyone will have one. And why are we in Zoom in boxes? What could that become if it was 3D XR and we could see each other in a 3D space and show our knowledge sculptures to each other and then point out, well, this is where my thinking comes from. You point out where your thinking comes from, and we have a conversation. That's the potential of this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I know. I'm trying to get it to work in 2D, and then I'll give it to Frodo, and he can make it work in 3D.
No, but that's the insane magic of this. I mean, Eric, what you talked about there is partly we had 2 years of Sloan supported work. Sorry.
Sure.
There you go. What? Sorry, I'm getting a piece of chocolate. Eka, come say hi.
Hi.
Hi, Edgar.
Hi, Edgar.
Wow, so much bigger.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Yes.
I'm just going to show you this. So I've just changed the whole thing. And what's going on?
Do you have any idea how many tokens this is munching?
No, I don't. But I may
Okay.
very well get a receipt for £50 more of money spent.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I mean, right now, I've
I
decided.
need your cash flow or something. I don't know. I'm very cheap when it comes to my AI usage.
Well, that's because we are in different stages. I mean, right now,
Yeah.
I've just decided that I just have to invest. Right? By the way, so here, the app that you saw earlier doing notes now just shows letters. Right, and the notes is going over to the other thing. So click on one, reply. Yeah, basically the functionality is here. Madness, right? Because somebody, Tom, last week said talked about systems thinking.
Mm-hmm.
That is, of course, what this is, right? When anybody can, when so I'm just moving my phone tip somewhere. I make the point that with a modern camera, you can make a 24 million pixel image at, moving your finger just a little bit. So what? You still have to choose the right camera, the lens, the perspective, the processing, the subject, the lighting, all of that stuff. Same with this. We can move the code all around, but you have to understand what code, meaning code as in a block you have, what kind of data you have. Still need to know all of that stuff. Otherwise, and it's totally legit, there's nothing wrong with making a personal app for the individual that is absolutely rubbish for anyone else. Totally fine. But if you're trying to have a community, you need to figure out the system, both technical, social, networking, and so on, that makes you go together. So this is still hypertext as far as I'm concerned.
Key is that those personal apps have to share the same data. If they can
100%.
understand, yeah. So if you can make that happen, and you have your local first technology for replicating data to each other, we could all plug in our own specific views of it, however we need it.
Eric,
Well, the thing I find really
a lot of files. Do you mind sending me a lot of files?
Who, me?
No, Eric.
No.
Of the ones you already have, so we can populate. So when we open your view, Tom, we got more stuff.
All right, hold on.
Thanks.
So I was going to say in response to what Eric just said, though, is that I think file types are going to disappear over time because they're a legacy of linear binary digital thinking as opposed to squishy thinking, which the AI is much more likely to digest. Because I can throw any kind of file into an AI, and it doesn't care. I can't do that with Microsoft Word or anything else. And I see you shaking your head, Frode, but I
think it's really important to be able to own a piece of knowledge that you can literally stick on the wall.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying files in the sense of incompatible file types. I mean, I think it's what we're talking about is going to be code is code and text is text, not, we've gotten so used to you have to format things in a certain way in order to get them into this application and not have it mess it up, right? That I think that world is going away. It's already gone away to a certain degree because of the universality of XML and things like that. And I can dump a Word file into Claude; it doesn't care. It reads the XML, and and Bill Gates can't lock it out.
No, I agree, and this is why I'm so fighting for JSON. The only thing that I want to contribute to JSON is, at the end of it, please just put the metadata down and tell us what it is. That's it. Translators are easy if the data is clear. So, the only thing. So here we go. This is what it built. Do you want it to be changed to be something different, like maybe more graphical or anything like that?
Are you asking me?
Yes, because this is yours.
Oh. Well, I mean, so what are you going to? This is going to convert this into a just hit go, see what it does.
Well, that's what it does. So I'll just read it, a bit of it. KNav is in the sidebar. It implements Tom's spec faithfully within the app's constraints. Everything on device, nothing generated, every result carrying its reasoning trace as a first-class output. So the unit of content, the library's addressable paragraph, the formats answer this one, substantial paragraphs, only capped at 30 per document. relationship space, Apple's on-device NLE embedding, NL embedding, sentence embedding. The truncation threshold is a live slider. Pairs at or above whatever form of cluster does such thing, bridge detection, sketch, reasoning. Okay. I'm going to ask, can you also make this an interaction more like, hang on, more like, oops. I think there may be another thing building here. Let me just check. What is this? Lisa? Okay. Yeah, Lisa was having some problems. We don't need to worry about this. Okay, this is good. Knowledge base. So while that is working on that, we can see I've told it to build, that's building, installing build product, loading. Now you should see that kind of microphone type interface. There it is. So I have to allow location. I have to give it my name to be used for tagging. I'm sure we can do something more elegant with that. So do my first name lowercase, that's not useful. Right, done.
So upload augmenting human intellect and see how it intersects with all of the interchanges you and Eric have had.
That's
Can you show that visually?
Hang on, I'm just going to find a folder here. So this is all synced together. How do I'm in the open dialog box. Okay, iCloud.
Or you can just go to it at dougengelbart.org.
Yeah. So I just sent a bunch of emails to Frode. The email has all the origami documents for my emails that I've sent over the past week or two.
This is a quick test of the knowledge space on iOS recording and notes. Right, let's take that.
So for Tom's question, like anytime I reference the concept of Engelbart, it might match it to something in augmented human intellect. Is that what you're trying to see?
Yeah.
So I'm putting these that you just sent into origami text directly.
Right.
And I'm going to open origami text. So inbox, I got these from you.
Yep.
Here they are. So this is now the thing about augmenting human intellect is that is a document, not a letter. And I don't mean that to be correcting you, because I'm certainly, that's not what I mean. What I mean is in the environment of what this is, something that is like an academic paper or something you're done with is an EPUB, origami EPUB. Something brief because it has more metadata, it can have images, it can have all kinds of goodies inside it. The letters between Eric and me right now are just plain text and JSON. So I can do what you said. I'm also being misspelled that I saw. Something is asking. There we go. So let's just say, okay, I'll just copy the whole thing. And I don't know how this is going to go. Going to go. Boom, boom.
Like if you downloaded a PDF of that, could it get the text out of that PDF?
It could, but it would be horrible.
Yeah.
Make a, can I still do, yeah, okay, I'll do notes secretly up here. I'm just going to delete some.
Yeah, did it even get the whole?
Okay, so the whole thing, this is not an editor yet. So sometimes it deletes the wrong thing and stuff, but you know, here we have some of it. Okay, there's a lot of stuff. So I'll export that. So that means it's now still going to be in the origami text, and I'm going to call it a note because it is a note. And we'll go back here. I'm going to go to I'm just going to see what's being built right now. Done. KNav as a wave presentation. All right, so I'm going to run it on the same set of information now that we have the new Eric messages. Sorry. And we have that document with a lot of good dev stuff. I'm getting all these pop-ups now. Right, so that's kind of cool. But then I'm going to click on Weave. I have no idea what's going to happen. Are you all as excited as I am? I hope so. Here it is. So here's augmenting human intellect, how it relates to all these other things. And of course, you can double click on any one of them, maybe. I mean, right now, this is completely useless, obviously. But this is iterable. So maybe we want to be able to have something in the middle, right?
Yeah, I mean, the idea would be now that you have the weak link, you cluster.
Yeah, and the okay, now put a text entry field in the where should it be? At the top. At the top. Before. All right, for the record. So I said in the KNav, put a text entry field at the top for the list weave option. And on enter, put the text in the middle of the weave and show connections to that. Now from that to the documents in the weave. Right, this is just, let's see what happens kind of stuff, right? Are you guys reading the description of the weave and Kate? It's all here if you want to read it.
Is weave something you created?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
I'll tell you how.
It's using the paragraph level of the document to weave concepts. Is that right?
I think so, but how did I create the weave? In a meeting recently with some of you guys, I said, I'm in a meeting now. Got to impress the guys. Make something really spectacularly visual. It doesn't have to be useful. And it did that. Now we're trying to make it useful, ruining the whole point.
Not necessarily. You have to have a pile of wood before you can start building a table, right?
True. I mean, you guys have, so in terms of visual power, check this out. I don't think Jamie has seen it. So I built this, I had an iPad app many years ago that was just a globe. You move it across and there's nothing, but if you tap on something, it'll show you the border. It's to help you learn a bit of geography because you can't really learn when it's already labeled, right? So I redid that here. You get borders within, you get cities, and you click to hide it, click to bring it back. That was the original. This took a very short time I mean, the texture I created based on actual data, the ocean was too detailed. So I just spent some time in Photoshop, manual work. It was fun evening it out a bit, right? So you can see these places. So this was done very easily. So now it runs on iOS, macOS, and Vision. So when you open this on the headset, it's 1.5 meters wide in front of you, right? So cool. But then I added this little dot lower left. So show countries by, I don't know, coffee consumption. The blue thing means it's trying to get that data. Doesn't always work. Well, let's see if we have a cached one. Population. Right, population, here you go. We've all seen these kinds of graphs, so I'm not in any way an inventor of it, but this was actually doable from within Xcode with Claude. I didn't have to go outside to get other stuff and feed it. It found the data. The World Bank is the source for these things, and I've told it what kind of caching it should do. It hasn't finished with that. And because these are a bit hard to read, I added the color gradation. At the very highest, whatever it is, should be orange, so it really sticks out. So not only is it shape-based, and you guys have talked about color a lot, here's an example of useful color. Color and height combined. You can do something like this. You can speak Singapore. There's Singapore. In the headset, you just say Atlas Singapore, and it'll show it to you, right? When you go on the headset with this, you can pull out and have the entire solar system in the space. The Earth becomes tiny. You can pull out further to have the local cluster of stars in the Milky Way.
What are the population levels on Mars?
Currently, well, there was one recently. Wasn't it Matt Damon? But my point of showing you this now is just to not to show off my toys. Of course, I want to do that. But it's also to show that for our work, graphic stuff of this quality is now entirely achievable. Right? I think that's a bit mad. All right, let's build the real thing again. I'm going to make the window a bit bigger. Have to see you guys. Here you are. I'm going to go to knav. I'm going to run it. And do its normal thing. Hold the thought. Okay, I'm going to do weave. So I'm going to do hypertext, right? Jamie, agree?
Yes.
Hypertext, hit enter. Is that useful right now? No, the others should fade, shouldn't they?
But if you have a dimension called dimension.hypertext, you can see the articles that are classified that way or have it in their paragraph. Yeah. That's why I think the zigzag view can reduce a lot of the clutter.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that gets me excited about AI is that the difficulty of these tasks drops so much that, we don't spend all of our time coding and spend most of our time thinking. And to be able to, because this kind of thinking is not easy.
Yep, and I'll give you an example. While I was developing that FTL box app, yeah, it came up with a way of doing something, but I found a better way after I watched it code its way through the wrong direction. And I said, okay, well, what if we created this register command? Wouldn't that simplify the interface to these other commands? And it agreed, and then it implemented it.
Yeah, exactly. And I do this. I mean, I don't have your coding expertise, Eric, but I have a coding library in Notebook LM, which has, good, known good coding reference works. And so whenever I get stuck on AI side of things, I'll go into Notebook LM and I'll say I'm having this problem, and it'll literally go and find the book and say on page
Oh,
435,
cool.
this is the error you're getting. Tell it to do this, and then I go back and then it unsticks itself, right?
Very nice.
That's good.
Right, but even thinking between us, so like I know that Tom and I share some interests, like Apple computers.
Hmm.
If we had our own, yeah, documents, you have a whole Ted Nelson library, which I might be interested in. So just to find connections between us, this thing
Hmm.
can surface them as well.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, my original inspiration is actually Vannevar Bush and the associative trails. You know, the fact that I could pick up all those trails and hand them to you, and then the information's out there. So that's really not the important. The information nodes are less important. It's not a question of finding. I mean, it is a question of finding stuff, but it's a question of recognizing the significance of what you found or lack thereof. And that is, that's the most important part of thinking. And again, that's the part of Bush that we've never been able to create. So, and of course, it's going to take a while for my processor to process through what we've been talking about today. So, um, Frodo, I don't mean to be dismissive at all. I'm just trying to wrap my head around exactly where I go with this, because I'm deep in the weeds, and that's partially my fault. I am deep in the weeds of trying to figure out this from a cognitive perspective at the moment, um, and trying to translate that into a application layer is something that's making my head hurt right now. And so, I've got two different levels of problems going on at the same time. But it is good to step outside that and say, okay, what's possible? I mean, I'm working with another group now that is trying to to figure out how to reform education. It's not but they're not education people. I'm pretty much the main education person. The rest of them are startup people. I'm trying to figure out ways of reforming the systems of education, higher education, and K-12. And so I've been thinking through the problems related to that, and then how do I get this reasoning loop that I've come up with to scale? And that is actually very fun too. The idea of actually making a customized LLM model that could and these the really cool thing about it is it doesn't need a lot of horsepower. You're basically going through the data that you are feeding it in a sense. You're not having to go and research the misty, dusty libraries of the world. You're trying to, think through you need a certain data set to train it, but other than that, it's not, you can run this on a local machine, which I think would again be very attractive to school districts and to Jamie's college, which doesn't want anything to go outside the walls of the college, as a mechanism for doing this. Depending on if you wanted the entire college to access it, you probably need to run it on a server. But if you're just doing it for yourself, and you're the only one hitting it, I mean, the limitation there is how many people are hitting it. And in terms of how much the model glows.
So
So
Tom,
yeah.
do you remember the game Oregon Trail for the Apple II?
Yes.
And the history of how it just made its way into classrooms and how it just
I don't know all
still
the details of the history because
right.
but yeah.
Well, it's like Minnesota has a company that a whole consortium of teachers put it together, and but the impact it had, a certain generation of students grew up learning how, interacting with each other as they tried to play this game. So what was so special that captivated their attention there and let them learn through the game? And then what's the next one? Yeah, I don't
It's
know.
funny that you mentioned Oregon Trail because it actually came up this week.
Mhm.
Guys, we have to finish, and I'm extremely
Yeah.
grateful for your time today.
I love it.
But So what it's done here is that when you type in a keyword, because look, this is without, right?
Yeah.
So if I type in, Jamie, give me a keyword, please. Not hypertext, we used it.
Augmentation.
Augmentation, glossary, annotation.
So this is what it does. It grays out the other lines and leaves that. I've asked it to do a little bit of sentiment analysis to color the lines, but it's still trying to figure that out. Point is, maybe we should have more of these kind of sessions together to play with some live stuff and send it back and forth. Give each other ideas. It's a bit different from our normal Mondays, and I think a lot of people would not be interested in this, even though that would be weird. What was the other thing you said, Jamie?
Glossary or annotation.
There you go, glossary.
We could even look for making meaning if you want a phrase.
Oh, I don't know if we can. Oh, it's found it in something.
Jamie, do you have a link for that conference, just for more information?
I can probably find, yeah, I'll try to find it.
Okay, cool.
This is the conference that's like at the end of September, correct? Or
I think it's mid-September. It's right between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Here we go. Monday the 14th to Friday the 18th.
I'm going to be traveling then, and not in London, unfortunately.
Well, again, it might be remote.
London is a good place to travel to.
I think it's right near, I think it's in the British Library or right near it.
Yeah.
What are you talking about, Jamie?
I put in a plug in the chat for narrative hypermedia. They asked a couple of days ago for single page submissions, and since there was talk about Oregon Trail, it seemed like the kind of thing. Here we go. Short 500-word extended abstract to participate in the workshop through talks and panels. Intend to explore how generative AI is changing narrative, but to broaden participation, it's open to other new technological frontiers as well.
Do you have a link for that?
Guides, provocations, and so on.
Oh, you did put a link in here.
Yeah, just now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this is Miller.
This is Charlie's and one of the Daves.
Yeah, cool. Well, I'll be
Big Dave.
Yeah.
I hope that doesn't get into the YouTube.
Talking of which. Thank you, guys. And I really would think it would be amazing if you all install Xcode and then just, I mean, the thing is, none of us are idiots, but we can all feel like idiots. At least I can. So if you come across,
feel like it constantly.
Well, that's the thing, because these things don't judge us, right? So today, because I've been trying to ship some of these basic apps, I have to say, where do I click? Right, really basic stuff.
Yeah,
and it just tells you. You know, it's also that human thing of not wanting to feel stupid. Here, it's okay to feel stupid. No one's looking. You know what I mean? And then we slowly get it. It's
yeah, no, I agree. And it's right now my problem is that I have so many interesting things to do that it's hard to prioritize. So
once I have the letters one properly done, I'll try to make normal test flights. So if you guys want to install it as a simple thing, you can do that too. Because then we can try just sending a few things back and forth without a huge, massive thing. But I mean, Jamie, I'm very glad you're here, because one of the opportunities now is a lot of the ideas of hypertext. We can just build them. Right?
I just saw Tom's picture.
Which Tom's picture?
In the chat.
An image of
the Oregon Trail reference.
Yeah, that's classic. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the hypertext stuff we can do now. I mean, the transclusion was one of the first things this thing just implemented. I didn't even tell it to do transclusion. I said, look at Ted's work. Anything we should do? So I want to do transclusion. It didn't do it by the book completely how Ted would want it. No, but it's functionally there. So yeah.
Just don't show it to Ted.
This is wrong. Rule. Just don't show it to Ted, 100%.
We can improve on his ideas now. You
Well,
saw
I
how
think-
it.
No, I don't think
Now-
that's possible. But
No.
I think again, you've got to start somewhere, and
yeah,
maybe there's a fatal flaw in it that can't be corrected the way it started, but we don't know yet.
right.
I'm talking
And
about
you're going to get 9 wrong answers before you get 1 right answer. And the problem is the wrong answers have been so expensive up to this point that you really need to make sure you're investing properly. Now, who cares?
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Mark did make the point that when I said I spent £1,000 over the last few days, you know, not everybody can throw that around, and I'm not throwing it around. That is my research budget, right? But it means that because that is my investment right now, we can all use that, you know, ideas sharing, and hopefully we'll get to a point soon that's a bit more stable, so it won't be that absolute madness. But that's where Eric and I have been working on the views. You know, you make a view and you share it with someone else, and the view can be made in the same way. And then you basically get the cost down to 0. You know, you can do it with a very basic LLM subscription. And then everybody can do it.
Yeah,
So
I
that's
look
wonderful.
at this. I look at
Eric.
it like rapid prototyping. That's what we're able to do now.
Exactly.
It's
Yeah.
rapid prototyping, but you are making the real thing.
Yeah, it's working code. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like it's cuneiform, right? It's
Yep.
moldable, but it's always the actual thing. Oh my God, it's just amazing.
Right.
Thank you, thank you. I look
Yeah,
forward
thanks,
to seeing
All
you
right, guys.
Monday.
I will not be here next Monday though because I'm traveling to visit my mother. So I'll be actually sitting on an airplane on Monday morning. So I'll be back the following Monday though.
Don't they have Starlink on those planes?
You don't want me to do Zoom that way.
No, I have tried it. It doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And we're going to go back to more normal things, but coding
Yeah.
is text. This is definitely part of the future of text as far as I'm concerned.
I will chew on this
Chew on this.
as I'm
feel
chewing
free-
on lunch.
Anybody, if you have a specific idea for a view, send it to me. Eric did. Send me, if you send me an email and say, turn this into a letter, I will do that on your behalf so we can play with it. It's a fantastic playground. And Jamie, you may not be aware, all of these are obviously coming up online, the videos, also the transcript with analysis, and the song. The transcripts are all turned into song.
Oh, I think I remember that from a long time ago.
Yeah, they've gotten kind of interesting lately. So
If I
you
had
have something to
realized
back up.
before, I wouldn't have named some of the people I named, or certainly not the way I did.
They tend not to. The songs shouldn't really name that. It may name you, but it's being a bit careful. And now that
Mhm.
you've said that, I will be extra careful to make sure I don't mention all the Epstein-related. Oh no, I said the key word. CIA is going to get us. Love you guys. I'll be
Trump
careful. And as always, if there's something in the transcript you don't like or disagree with, or that was wrong, tell me, and I'll happily delete it in every possible way.
Yeah, you just let me know when I can look over the transcript.
Tomorrow. I tend to do this in the same day.
Okay. I'll try to remember to look at it. There's a name or two I want to just put in a mumble or something for.
Okay, I can look into mumbles. Thanks
Thank
again. Uploading the
thanks.
video
You can
now.
bleep it like it's a cuss word.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 Okay. Bye.